Okay, I think we're live. So let's get started, shall we? My name is Kelly Coates Gilbert, and I am broadcasting live tonight from Dallas, Texas. And tonight I have one of my favorite authors. I read her often because she writes in my genre, and it's the kind of books that, like I said earlier, I love to read. So this is Lilly Mirren. She is broadcasting tonight from
Brisbane, Australia.
Australia. And so what time is it there this morning?
It is 10 a.m.
10 a.m. So that's not too bad.
Not too bad.
6 a.m. here in Dallas. So a little housekeeping first. For any of you who are new to She's Reading, we do not see your comments because we're broadcasting from a platform called Zoom, and we're live broadcasting integrating into Facebook. So we don't see your comments, but please comment because Lily's going to offer us a giveaway tonight. And for those of you who have commented, those are the ones that are going to be entered to win. So put your comments there. Lily and I will chat. And then when we finish this Zoom call, we're both going to go back over there to She's Reading on Facebook and we'll answer all your questions then. Okay? So Lily, welcome. Tell us how you became a novelist.
Thank you so much for having me. What a lovely introduction.
You're welcome.
How I became a novelist. Well, it's a pretty long story, but I guess I always wanted to write. When I was a kid, if you'd asked me what's your dream job, I probably would have said writer because I was an avid reader. I loved all the classics and I just loved to read. I would read anything I could get my hands on. Now, this obviously was before ebooks, and so I don't know if you can relate, but it involved me reading everything we had in the house multiple times because I couldn't get my hands on more books. So I read and read and read and I loved it all. But then when I finished high school, I thought I wanted to be a journalist, which is a form of writing, of course. So that was kind of the direction I was headed. But then I didn't really enjoy journalism. I didn't enjoy studying it. So I ended up going into IT, which is completely different. And I worked in that field for probably almost a decade. And it wasn't until I have 3 children, and it wasn't until my eldest was probably about 7 that she came home and she was telling me about something that happened at school. And for some reason, I just said, why don't we write a story about it? And so that was my first book, which was a kid's book. And I wrote that with my daughter, and it was really meant to just be for fun. But then I thought, you know what would be really fun is if we got it illustrated and published it, and then it could be sort of a memento that we had. And so I looked into doing all of that, and I discovered this whole world of independent publishing, and that there were people who were making a living writing books, and I thought, I'd like to do that.
Yeah.
And so I did that. I started about 5 years ago, and now, I'm just writing the kinds of books that I love, and I'm just really enjoying it, and it's become a passion for me for sure. And I don't do IT anymore, so that was a big
thing too.
Yeah.
Well, I transitioned from a career too. I was a legal investigator and then became a novelist full time. And I don't know. I think that those of us who transitioned, we bring a little bit of life experience to the game. And I don't know about you, but there's people I worked with and different people I met along the way that show up on my pages sometimes. I want to tell y'all just a little bit about Lily. First of all, she has about 11 titles out that are all ranked in the high levels at Amazon. She's one of the most popular women's fiction authors around, and there's a reason. She writes these lovely books that are often set on beaches. She has 3 series that I could tell, so correct me if I'm wrong, but she has the Waratah, did I say it right?
That's right.
Waratah Inn series, which was the one I read. She has Emerald Cove, and she has a new one called Home Sweet Home. And one of the things that I like to do when I bring authors on is to take a look at their reviews, because I see repeated phrases often that will give you just a little window into the author. And there were some new phrases with Lily. First of all, just on Waratah Inn alone, she has over 2,600 ratings. That's pretty phenomenal for a single book. But these are the phrases I found. Hard to put down, very well written, spellbinding. This is what I really liked. Romance is not dead.
Oh, nice.
Because who doesn't love a little bit of romance in their women's fiction? And then here's another cute one. Had to get the following 2 books straight away.
Oh, yeah, that's lovely.
Yeah, and then here's one. This was the first time I read anything by Lilly Mirren, but it will not be the last. So that is those are what your readers say. And I would heartily join the group who are fans of Lilly Mirren. Wow. Partly because, and when I kind of promoted you over on my my regular Facebook page, I promised the readers that we're going to hear a little bit about setting. And if you'll just give me just a little minute, this is why, I mean, I read a ton, but one of the things I love is when I find an author who has just a way with words, and particularly if they can transport me to a new place. You are remarkable at that.
Oh, yeah.
First of all, girls, if you want to go take a vacation right now, and who doesn't? I mean, we're all been stuck at home and we can't fly internationally, but I promise you that if you go take a look at some of Lily's books, you can take a trip. Because listen to this at the Waratah Inn. With one calloused palm resting on a handrail made of sun-bleached timber, she glanced back over her shoulder. The sun had popped over the horizon in its full glory now. Remnants of pink glistened within its bright yellow rays. The entire beach was bathed in light, sand warming and crabs finding their way back to holes that hid them from the heat of the day. The waves, no longer dark, sparkled azure. Her breathing slowed and she climbed the stairs at a brisk pace. Sandals awaited her at the top, lined up neatly side by side. She slid her feet into them, then marched through the short grass. The inn rose tall ahead of her. Shadows from a grove of pandanus. Did I say that right? Pandanus?
Pandanus.
Pandanus, okay. Shadows from a grove of pandanus mottled the peeling pink paint. The gutter on the rear side of the building sagged and smoke sputtered from the small chimney above it. She stopped to study the building, inhaled slowly, and smiled to herself. It had seen better days, but then again, so had she. To her, it would always be the place she found herself, the place where her wounded heart had discovered a refuge. Isn't that wonderful? This is what I love. It's the kind of writing that transports you to a new place. You suddenly find yourself in a setting that is just delicious, and it promises an emotional read. So let's talk a little bit about your process, because I want to know too. Are you a pantser or a plotter?
I'm very much a plotter. I like to plan out my story ahead of time. I do let it take me places that I wasn't expecting along the way, but I like to know where I'm going at the end. And certainly with the Waratah Inn series, I won't do any spoilers or anything like that, but there is a mystery that is woven through the series. And I was as surprised as anybody by how it all came together at the end. I was like dancing around the room because it all just came together so perfectly. And I hadn't fully planned out how I could do all of that. And it just worked. So I was very excited about that.
Yeah, it did work. You know, and who doesn't love just to have this thread of mystery running through the book? I mean, yeah, you pulled that off beautifully.
Thank you. So
I about your characters. How do you go about, because you had some really great characters too. Tell me how you develop your characters.
Well, they just kind of happen. So I don't plan them as much, because it's just something when I'm writing a character that they just sort of come to life. And I've literally had to start again with completely new characters on a book before, because I didn't like the characters, but I couldn't change them because that's just who they were.
Oh, yeah.
So I had to start again, new names, new characters, so that I could enjoy the characters And yeah, they just kind of develop themselves in my imagination, I suppose, and then it just flows onto the page. So
How do you name your characters?
um, that's very impulsive as well. So I don't really have a process. It just sort of comes to me. At this point, I have to be careful I don't repeat names. But yeah, so that it is tricky when you write a lot of books. Naming your characters is tricky.
Yeah, and you know, the names of my characters are really important to me. I make a list of names that I find in different places, or if I meet someone, but particularly when I watch a movie and then they roll the credits at the end, I always see names that go, I like that name, I like that name. And I'm constantly pausing the TV to write down the names, because that way I just have a list, and I pick from there.
With the Waratah Inn, it's actually set in the 1990s. And so that's my childhood. And so what I did was I kind of just thought about what were the names that were popular when I was that age.
Sure.
And I grew up in the area where the Waratah Inn is set as well. So that's kind of how I looked at it. Who did I go to school with? And there are school friends' names in the book. So,
well, you know, and the fact that it's kind of based on a little bit of real life experience probably makes that book shine. And I noticed when I did the Sun Valley series, that's where I grew up. And people often write and say, oh my gosh, that just, you know, you nailed it. And you do, because you lived it.
Yeah. So I lived in a little town called Murwillumbah, which is where Home Sweet Home is set.
Oh, you knew it.
Yeah, but it's very close to Cabarita Beach. It's only about 20 minutes away. So I would go to Cabarita Beach as a kid. Back then in the 90s, so when the Waratah Inn is set then, there was hardly anything there. Cabarita was tiny. It was just a little hamlet by the beach. Didn't have neighborhoods. When I was in about year 10 or 11, they started building neighborhoods there. So it was just a really tiny little place. It's still not busy by any stretch. It's still, and we go down to Cabarita Beach pretty regularly because it's so beautiful there. And I actually take photographs when I'm down there and put them on my Facebook page for the readers to see.
Oh, fun. I'll have to go make sure I take a look at those.
Yeah.
Oh, and I love beach reads, and that, you know, the covers on your books. I don't know who does your covers, but they are.
Oh, yes. It's Evelyn LaBelle. She's with Carpe Librum. She does the Waratah Inn covers, and they're beautiful. And then my other covers are by Erin Demeron Hill, who she does an amazing job as well. I love Evelyn, and I would get her to keep doing more covers, but she's actually having a baby, so I have to go other directions.
I think that's one of the things I have loved. I started out with traditional publishing and, you know, contracts and, you know, submitting work and getting it accepted and having an agent. And when I transitioned to independent publishing, it just opened a whole new world. And there are all these amazing women out there that are so talented. They're editors and cover designers. And what I'm delighted to see is how many young women are able to be home and raise their families and work at tremendous industry, in an industry that just has tremendous need, but also they're just so talented.
Absolutely. And a lot of the people that I work with, they are mums who are at home with their kids, and so am I. When I started writing, I still had one of my kids was still at home, two were at school, and one of the incentives for me to work really hard at it was that I didn't want to be away from my kids all the time, and having a career in IT meant that I was getting home pretty late at night. I wasn't working full time in that job, but I knew that one day I'd have to go back full time, and I wouldn't have school vacation off, and I wouldn't see them in the evenings or be able to take them to dance lessons and all that sort of stuff. And so one of the driving forces behind me really pushing hard to make this into a career was that I wanted to be able to be with my kids and experience life with them and have that flexibility. And it really has allowed me to do that, which is fantastic.
Yeah. So tell me about a typical writing day. You get up and
Well, I haven't had a lot of typical writing days in a while, because one of the other amazing things about being a writer, I was able to take my family on an extended trip for the last half of last year. So Australia has coped very well with COVID, and we're so grateful for that. And we got a caravan, which is what I think you guys call camper vans or trailers or something. It wasn't a motorhome, it's the one where you pull it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sure.
And we went around Queensland and the Northern Territory, and there's not very many people. So you kind of, even if there was a pandemic, you hardly see anyone. So it's kind of social distancing, but in a fun way.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds wonderful.
Absolutely. So we explored, if you've ever watched Crocodile Dundee, we explored Kakadu and all of that. Saw lots of crocodiles and lots of dirt. There's not much water up there. And just had a really fantastic time. But it means that we've had 10 months with the kids at home or with us all the time. So my writing really is just sort of, oh, they're watching a movie, quick, I better write. Everybody's in bed, I'll do some writing.
Yeah.
But usually,
I'm fascinated with authors writing styles and such, because I have friends who literally don't write hardly at all, and then they'll sit down and write an entire book in like 6 days. They don't eat or sleep, they just write. And then the rest of the time they don't have to juggle. I have other people who like me get up every day, Monday through Saturday. We write from 9 to 3, every day. There's other people I know who sit and write kind of a synopsis on their counter and pretty much detail out almost everything that happens. And then they go away and write the book in a weekend, filling in all the gaps. And, isn't it interesting how we all do it differently?
Yeah. Well, I tend to, now that they're all back in school, I will be getting up early and writing for a couple of hours and try to do that each day and get the writing done so that I can do other things. Like there's a lot of business associated with, as you know, independently publishing. So there's a lot of that as well to take care of, and editing. And
sometimes.
Yeah.
So tell me how you, I have found, particularly right now, it's so isolating. And while I love holding up at home and writing, and I'm actually what you call an extroverted introvert. I love people for a minute, and then I want to be alone. But then I need people again. So how do you, and how have you over the course of your career built networks with authors, and how has that propelled your career? What have you learned from other authors? Tell me about that, because I know I go to writers' conferences and I have some dear author friends who I hang with. Tell me about yours.
Well, you're very blessed, because I think that certainly is more of an advantage in America. It's not such a thing in Australia. So it's very difficult to find networks of authors. I have been to, they do have a conference called the Romance Writers of Australia, and I went to that one time. But that in Australia, that's still mostly traditionally published authors. There's not a very big network of self-published authors yet. And in fact, ebooks don't sell all that well in Australia yet. I'm hoping that will change over time. I do have a friend, but we don't see each other all that often, who is a writer, and she is wonderful and we get on really well. And we will chat with each other and ask each other questions. But most of my author connections are actually probably online, because they're either in the UK or America, places like that. And so Facebook groups have been a big part of that for me, and certainly learning from them online. But as far as the social aspect, I totally understand. It is isolating to work for yourself, especially when all of this stuff is going on and people are having to quarantine and all that sort of thing. And it certainly feels isolating. And so I'm hoping that as things open up more, which they are doing in Brisbane, to join some groups and things like that, because I used to have kids at home, and so you don't have to worry about it then, because you're always doing things with the kids and meeting people that way. And so now mine are all at school, so I have to be a bit more intentional about making those connections.
Well, let me, if you have, I'm sure you've probably heard of it, but let me extend an invitation right now, because my favorite writers conference is called Novelists Inc. It's NINC.
Oh yeah,
it's
I was
held,
supposed to go to that last year. I'd signed up and everything, and then it got
and then it got canceled.
Yeah.
Well, we're really, fingers crossed it's going to go forward, but it's in St. Pete, Florida every fall.
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
Oh, I hope you get to come, because you and I'll hang out at the Tiki Bar, and they have these drink called the Almond Joyous, and they taste like a liquid almond joy candy bar. They're just pretty darn good. And so, I mean, I don't drink very much, but I always have an Almond Joyous. It's yummy. So, and all the, representatives from Amazon and Nook, Barnes and Noble, Kobo, all the people are there, and it's just a wonderful, conference. So I look forward to seeing you in person.
That would be great.
That works out for us, because I would love that.
I actually lived in America for 7 years in Atlanta. Atlanta.
Oh, Atlanta, Georgia.
And that's where my husband is from. So we were going to come over for NINC, and we were also going to travel around America. Yeah. And that's why we ended up traveling around Australia. But the plan was to go and see the family in America and all of that. And of course, that all fell apart.
Well, if you ever get to Dallas, Texas, you give me a ring.
Yeah.
Dinner or something. That would be so fun.
I definitely want to see Texas.
If you could tell your younger writer self anything, what would it be?
Oh, wow. Start sooner.
Yeah, I know, right? Oh, especially I envy those girls. I started writing, my first book was published in 2012, and that's when the girls that were starting indie pubbing were just hitting it big, Yeah. And I love my traditional days. I love the publishers. They were so supportive, but I do wish that I had hit the indie pubbing circuit a little earlier.
I was having babies then, so I was
Yeah.
But that's what I would basically say. I think the reason that I took so long to start is I didn't believe in myself. And I love reading all of the classics, the beautiful writing. And I've always thought I'd love to do that, but I just don't think I'm good enough. I don't think I could do it. And so that's what I would tell myself. Of course, you're not going to on your first book, keep writing, keep trying, work on your craft, improve, but you can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the things. My next question to you was, what about this publishing industry gives you the deepest joy? And I'll answer first, and that is, I didn't expect to fall in love with my readers like this. We've become friends, and social media helps with that. But my books, they'll buy every book and they'll write to you and tell you all, everything that they enjoy, and they'll write reviews, and that's been such a pleasure. And I had no idea.
Yes.
What's your deepest joy in this business?
I love hearing from readers. Yes, absolutely. And I guess for me as well, it's been being able to explore my creativity and learning to believe in myself and realize that, I can do it, that working hard and trying again, you get bad reviews at times, or you write a book that's a bit of a dud, but picking yourself up and dusting off and keep going. And I've learned a lot about myself through that process. And I think that it's something that people, find your passion, whatever it is, and go for it. When I started writing, I said to myself, I'm not doing this for anyone else. If no one reads my books, I don't care any longer. That used to be it. No one will read my books. Why would I write a book? No one will read it. But you get to a certain age where you're like, I don't care if anybody reads it. I want to write a book. Yeah. And so I think that you find your passion, and you don't worry about whether anyone else will appreciate it. You do it for the journey and the process and the enjoyment of achieving something and completing it yourself.
Well, and I think that attitude shows up in your novels, because you do seem to write with a freedom. You have a very unique voice. partly because of your settings and everything, but your writing style is lovely. But you can tell there's a freedom there that you're portraying on the page, a freedom to explore storylines and characters. And I have loved your books. I'm so tickled that you agreed to come on here. I tell my readers often that I'm a fangirl too. And so when I get, and sometimes it's a little hard to reach out to an author that I've never met personally and say, hey, I did that with Lilly and just kind of crossed my fingers that maybe it would work. And I knew she was in Australia, so I was a little worried about how it might work out, but I am delighted that you were able to come tonight. We've been on already for about a half an hour, which is usually about what we do. But let me tell you, one of the things I like to end with is what's called my rapid fire questions. And it's just, I just do this or this. It gives the readers just a little glimpse into who you are. And so I'll say this or this, and you tell me which one. Chocolate or vanilla?
Chocolate.
Pie or cake?
Pie.
Beer or wine?
Wine.
Mm-hmm. Stilettos or flip-flops?
Flip-flops.
I haven't met an author yet that said stilettos. Dawn or sunset?
Ooh, dawn.
Dawn.
Mm.
Swimming or walking?
Walking.
Beach or mountains?
Oh gosh, I love both. Beach.
Cook or takeout?
Cook.
Oh, you like to cook?
Yeah.
Campground or resort?
Resort.
Me too. Flower or massage?
5 months in campgrounds.
Yeah. Flowers or massage?
Ooh, massage.
Yeah, massage. And before we wrap up, tell me what you do when you finish a book. How do you reward yourself?
Oh gosh, I should get better at doing that. I don't really reward myself. I should. I should do something. It's funny when the Summer Sisters, the third book in the Waratah series, hit the USA Today bestseller list. I basically just ran around the house in my pajamas crying, and the kids going, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" Because, when you work alone, there's no one to really celebrate with, and so I should do something, shouldn't I? I don't know what though.
Absolutely. This business is hard, and when you achieve something like USA Today, or when you get a book done, or you hit a certain sales level, yeah, you need to celebrate. There's no doubt about it. Let me ask you about your giveaway. Tell the readers what you're giving away, and how we've already said that if you enter, you just put a comment, and then we're going to pick a winner out of there. So tell them about your giveaway.
Well, my latest release is a book called Home Sweet Home, and it's set in my hometown of Murwillumbah. It is a lovely story about overcoming loss and grief to start your life again in your 40s. And so I wrote this while traveling in the caravan.
Uh-huh.
So, and it's called Home Sweet Home. So I was a little bit nostalgic probably, but I love my hometown. I moved out when I was 18, and when in Australia, if you live in a little country town, pretty much all of the kids leave at 18 to go to university in the city. Most do anyway. And so there's a lot of nostalgia in Australia for the hometown. And I'm not sure, it's probably similar in America, but the little country town. Yeah, the little country town you grew up in, I grew up riding ponies and swimming in rivers and all that sort of stuff. And so this is a nostalgic look at that. So I'm going to give away 5 ebook copies of Home Sweet Home to your lovely readers.
Oh, that's very generous. So did you hear that? If you have not read Lilly Mirren yet, this is your chance to put in and see if you can win a copy. And even if you don't win a copy, I strongly urge that you go out and you pick at least one of Lilly's books and take a good read. You will not be sorry. You will not be sorry. I love Lilly's books. So tell them how your website address. I suppose you have a newsletter that they can sign up for.
Yes. So my website is lillymirren.com.
Oh, that's easy.
Yeah. If you
spell it for them.
LILLYMIRREN.com.
Okay.
Sorry, the double R is an Australian thing, isn't it? And the books are set in Australia, and they do have Australian terms in them. And so I have a little glossary for you.
Okay.
And the Waratah In series, for example, as well, you can sign up through to the newsletter through a link in the book, and it actually gives you a bonus chapter for the Waratah In too. So, but you can just sign up from the website as well if you prefer to do it that way. So
great, excellent, excellent. Okay, so that's your marching orders. Put those comments in there, and then when we end this call, Lily and I are going to go over and answer all your questions. Before I do, Tuesday, this is something so out of the normal for me. I've been a published author for ever since 2012, and I kind of tease because we got invited to participate in a 28-day devotional by a couple that we met at NEEC, and they invited us to be part of this because the proceeds were going to go to first responders and their spouses, particularly during this time when, you know, there's so much tension and such anyway, and that kind of tension places on marriages. So the book is called Love Letters. It's just a cute little devotional book. It's an ebook for 99¢, or you can buy the hard copy. And again, all proceeds go to the first responders. So you can find it on the Amazon page. You can just go to my author page and it'll be there, or and then there's 28 others. But what was really cute was my husband and I did it together. So I told him, I said, you became a published author on Tuesday. So that might be the only published book he ever has, but he's a published author now. So that's fun. And then a week from tonight, I'm going to be on here live because we're going to be launching the 4th book in my Pacific Bay series. I don't even have a physical copy, but this is it. And we're going to be giving away a few of these yellow umbrellas that night. So a week from tonight, we're going to do a launch party here on She's Reading for Between Rains. And this is one that it's a little bit of a family saga, but it's the first time I ever wrote primarily from the protagonist who is a male. I always write females. So have you ever written from a male perspective?
I have written some romances where you go back and forth.
Oh, back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I had never, but it was fun. And then for those of you who read Chasing Wind, there's a little romance that kind of buzzed between them. So I think you'll enjoy that. Anyway, so we'll see you here next Thursday night. And I invite you all to go and pre-order Between Rains if you would. Lily, it's been a pleasure. I would love to do this whether we were doing it on She's Reading or not. And I hope that you and I can maybe even do this again. Like I said, I'm isolated and I love to visit with authors. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. What a pleasure. And just lovely words. I'll always sign up to hear some nice encouragement for sure.
Yeah. Well, it was easy to do. Your readers love you and I'm one of them. So everyone go put your comments and we'll see you there in a few minutes. And again, thank you.
Thanks everyone. Bye.
Good night.